Okay. Battle of Alberta. First of all, everything has happened exactly as expected.
Yeah.
Mike Smith has been the far and away better goaltender, just as we all predicted over Jakob Markstrom. It's been a fun series.
Calgary's got to start shooting. Clearly, Calgary's got to start shooting the puck from 150 feet out.
Okay, so sorry, that's very funny. But you also reminded me in game one, like Calgary outshot Edmonton, like what was it, 55 to 28 or something like it was ridiculous. I could look it up, but it was something ridiculous. And that was another thing that I was just like, just as we all suspected, Calgary is the one constantly pushing the offense, and Edmonton is scoring on the
on the counterattack.
The counterattack and getting the garbage goals against the goaltender. This series has been fascinating. I will say this, and please, Edmonton Oilers fans, I'm loving watching the team, but so don't take this the wrong way. But if there's one team that I could see having an epic collapse out of nowhere, it's the Edmonton Oilers.
Well, it always seems kind of rather tenuous, right?
Right.
I mean, and you thought it might come last night when they take a 3-0 lead, Calgary claws back, they get a goal from 132 feet out and late in the third period, and Mike Smith goes like this. I don't know what he was doing. Like if he was saying, I'm an idiot or what's going on here. But I don't know who he was blaming. And then, what do you know? They come back, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins of all guys, who really was dialed in last night. He was really, really dialed in last night.
Yeah.
Wins it for them. So, this series is, after game one, you thought it was going to be a complete shit show, right?
Yeah.
And then it calms down. And then, as you say, Mike Smith isn't even it's funny because this is kind of the antithesis of the Carolina New York series, right? Both goalies are great and there's nothing to choose between them, right?
Right. Yeah.
This one, both goalies are not great. and it's really weird because the one that you thought was going to be better has been way worse.
Yeah.
Jacob Markstrom has just been, there's your awards thing, right? He's going to be a finalist for the Vezina Trophy, I think. I think he's a finalist.
Yeah, he is a finalist for the Vezina Trophy.
Look what he's doing right now.
Shesterkin.
Look what he's doing right now.
Yeah. In fairness, of the three finalists, I would have had him as third.
Yeah.
I would have Shesterkin, then Saros, then Markstrom at this point in the game.
Yep.
But he's putting some distance in that third place as far as I'm concerned.
Well, he's also putting some distance between him and the guys that are shooting. I swear one of these times he's going to actually skate and go around and stand behind the net one of these times when he's facing a shot. He couldn't be playing deeper in his net than he is. That puck handling gaff last night was just epic, right? That was terrible.
Okay, so was that not the exact same gaff? But was that not the exact same gaff that Mike Smith did in game one?
Yeah.
It was the exact same. Give away from behind the net and then the dive out in the front of the net.
Yeah, and it was early in the game. It was early in the game, too.
It was the exact same gaff.
This one was 21 seconds in and the other one was 26 seconds in or something. Yeah.
You know what Evander Kane's shooting percentage is in this series?
120?
41.67%.
Wow.
You know what Connor McDavid's is?
12?
Yeah, 11 3/4.
Yeah.
That's a very good guess, Ken.
Well, yeah, but he hasn't got many goals. Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, but
that's fair.
But he's playing at another worldly level. Let's face it, right?
He is just outrageous.
And I really believe that him doing what he's doing. I don't. It's as close to LeBron James as you're going to see in hockey. I think.
I agree with you.
When LeBron James would carry, the Cleveland Cavaliers to the NBA championship. It's as close to that as you see. But I really do think that they feed off it. If they know that their guy's going, and then you end up, with Draisaitl playing the way he's playing, and you end up with Zach Hyman doing what he's doing, which is, absolutely amazing. And then guys like Evander Kane, they all fall into line, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I mean, I completely agree. I remember reading the Saving Private Ryan book, and because my family had a rule, because I was about 12 or 13, my family had a rule that for R-rated movies, you had to read the book before you watched the movie if you wanted to watch an R-rated movie. So I remember reading the book, but it described whatever Sergeant, and how he'd always be dancing through the bullets, running from foxhole to foxhole, and how everybody thought that no bullet could hit them because no bullet could hit their sergeant, and
right.
And that's basically Connor McDavid. The way that he's dancing around the ice, you just see the confidence that it's imbued and to everybody else on the team, and they're just all out there doing it. I mean, it's a treat to watch Connor McDavid. It'll be a treat to watch him in the conference finals, because I don't know if it's just me, but he seems fresh. Like some guys are seeming like Kucherov seems a little tired, to be honest. If you ask me,
he's been tired since the beginning of the playoffs, I think. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's hard to play the whole regular season, isn't Cooch? Isn't it, Cooch? It's difficult to be $18 million within the salary cap.
Old news, buddy. Old news.
I'm just teasing joking around.
You're right. I mean, and for McDavid,
it looks like he could do this standing on his head.
Yeah.
He looks like he could do this standing on his head.
He's clearly very, very dialed in here, and I think he senses that there's a real opportunity here.
Yeah.
Because who knows what this team is going to look like next year? Like, if I'm the Oilers, I was talking to somebody about this last night. It's like, thanks, Evander Kane. You were great. And you're probably going to get some money somewhere else, but we'll just
not from us. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right. But I got to say, I mean, like, your Ken Holland there is looking like a absolute genius for putting his eggs in Mike Smith's basket.
Yeah, he is. And I mean, Mike Smith has been good enough, and that's what.
Mike Smith has been great.
Yeah, he's actually been really good. Yeah.
He's been great.
Yeah.
Mike Smith has, well, okay, I was screaming great. Maybe that was wrong. But he's got a ninth in this series.
What he's doing right now doesn't like translate into greatness to me.
In this series, he's got a .913 save percentage and has 10 goals against and 10.98 expected goals against. So he is playing essentially slightly better than a league average goalie, which is okay. You're right. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
That's going to be your ringtone for me from, just, you're right. I'm wrong. Oh, Dylan's calling.
Wow.
No, you're right. But still, it's I mean, a 9-13, it's nothing to sneeze at. And when you've got Evander Kane scoring on almost half the shots he takes, Zach Hyman scoring on over a quarter of the shots he takes, and then of course Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins just all looking like absolute buttes out there.
Yeah.
Even Duncan Keith has had moments where he's looked like a much younger man.
Really good. Yeah.
And Brett Kulak has had a pretty decent series. He was such a good pickup, like as for a team. And I mean, I called it, like covering the Habs. Like I was like, man, some team that's going to be completely cash strapped is going to pick this guy up and give him a reasonable role, because he's just been a good. So, what?
That's one of those ones that you look at it after and you go, okay, everybody blew their brains out at the trade deadline, but there's always one trade that ends up being the best one that that somebody makes, and I mean, look what Florida did. They went out and got Claude Giroux, and they went out and got Ben Girard. They went out and did all those things. Yeah. And then, the Oilers go out and get Brett Kulak.
You know what Mark Dumas used to call Brett Kulak when he played for the Habs?
What?
The Rodney Dangerfield of the Habs, because he never gets no respect.
Okay. Yeah.
I see that as accurate, because he never, he never really cemented his place, and yet he played solid defense, the whole way. He's not that physical, he's not that interesting to watch, but he just does all the little things well, and he's being a good defender. And so, like you said,
and sometimes when you don't notice a guy, it's a lot better than when you notice a guy.
Yeah, well, you're not wrong about that.
Yeah,
you're not wrong about that. So the only thing that I'll say about this series is that obviously the Oilers with Mike Smith and net, who I still don't have confidence in from one game to the next, because he's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
He's also 40 years old.
Yeah, well, I became temperamental at 25. So, emotionally, I mean, of course.
Right.
But as a goaltender, I'm still a rock.
Sure, yeah.
The one thing that I'll say is that Daryl Sutter is coaching the Calgary Flames. And if there's one coach that I would think, could find a way to slow down the McDavid show and figure out a way to really take away that space, it's Daryl Sutter. Now, obviously, the Calgary Flames are without Tanev.
Well, he played last night, but he was clearly hurt. He was clearly hurt. He couldn't. Yeah. There was a battle in front of the net on one of the power play goals where he just couldn't contain the guy, because he's obviously playing very, very badly hurt.
Yeah. So, and he played 17 minutes last night.
Yeah.
And he got an assist, so that's kind of cool.
He did.
But my point is that even that aside, you've got to think that a coach like Daryl Sutter, his bread and butter is finding ways to deal with talent discrepancies. And
but you're not like that would lend credence to the notion that Connor McDavid can be stopped right now. And I'm not sure it can be. I'm really not sure.
No, you're not wrong.
That's one of those ones where it's like they have no answer for him. I'm
just saying that if anybody can figure it out, my money's on Daryl Sutter. But I agree with you that there is the other thought that he might just not be able to be stopped.
Yeah.
Before we get out of this, watching Connor McDavid play in these playoffs made me think of the greatest player of all time debate. Now, I'm not obviously putting Connor McDavid in that debate quite yet, but it gave me a new perspective on that debate, which is that I've always been kind of, don't overthink it. It's Wayne Gretzky. He's the greatest player of all time. Why overthink this? Why make this a discussion? But I started thinking about, if you apply the idea that the greatest player of all time would be great in every era of hockey, whether it's the dead puck era, whether it's the wide open 80s era, whether it's the hook and hold, kind of early 2000s pre-lockout era. Like if you apply that the greatest player of all time would be able to thrive in every single era, I'm wondering if it's not Wayne Gretzky. I'm wondering if he does not thrive outside of the era that he played in. And I am wondering if a guy like Connor McDavid, like, it just seems like he could thrive no matter what era of hockey you dropped him into.
But Connor McDavid's also had the benefit of all of the evolution that's come with in time since those eras of hockey, right? Like, I mean, if somebody could have done what Connor McDavid's doing now 20 years ago, you got to think somebody would have been able to do it. Somebody out there would have been able to do it, right? Like, to me, Connor McDavid is, without a doubt, the best hockey player who's ever lived to this point.
Yeah.
He's the best hockey player. He's better than any other hockey player.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make him the greatest hockey player that's ever lived, right? To me, Wayne Gretzky is still the greatest hockey player who's ever lived, because you can only measure against the eras and the metrics of the era in which they played, right? So in terms of skill, in terms of ability, in terms of vision, in terms of all those other things, Connor McDavid is the best hockey player who has ever lived. Now, I'm going to sit here and say that in 10 or 15 years, there's going to be somebody else who is going to be the best hockey player who ever lived.
Also maybe named Connor.
Yeah, it could be. Yes, yeah, it could be. No, but it's funny because, this past year, I always used to talk about the 87 Canada Cup, right?
Right.
How great it was. Oh man, hockey's never been played at a higher level than that, and all this other stuff. And so my 21-year-old sat down this year or last year, it was recently in the last couple of years, sat down and watched some of it with me. And he's like, Dad, this sucks.
This is a preseason game.
Yeah. And I'm thinking like, okay, in like 30 years, you're going to be sitting with your kid and you're going to be going, Connor McDavid was the greatest player who's ever lived. You should watch. And he's probably going to be sitting there going, I don't know. He's not that great.
So I'm certainly not saying that Connor McDavid is anywhere close to the Wayne Gretzky level of hockey, but I guess I was actually thinking about whether Mario Lemieux would, by my new parameters, be the greatest player that ever lived, in the sense that it feels like Mario Lemieux and his style of play and the amount of different ways that he could beat you could be dropped into any different era and be great. And so that's what I was thinking about with Connor McDavid, not necessarily to say, I don't want to radio myself and be like, Connor McDavid should be considered better than Wayne Gretzky, but rather, would Connor McDavid be able to thrive in every single era of hockey? And maybe.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, Connor McDavid should be considered better than Wayne Gretzky because he is better. He's a better hockey player, just like Wayne Gretzky was a better hockey player than Bobby Orr, and Bobby Orr was a better hockey player than Doug Harvey, and and on and on. And Toe Blake was a better player than Howie Morenz, and they're better. They're actually better players. I mean, the whole league right now is better than Gordie Howe. Like even the worst player in the NHL now is probably a better hockey player than Gordie Howe ever was.
Well, it doesn't help that Gordie Howe's dead. Come on, Ken.
But like it's I mean, you don't measure it by that metric. You measure it by the metric of where they are and in their career. Like, okay, you can say, okay, well, there were only 6 teams. Well, somebody still had to be the best player, you still had to be the best player. And those guys were still the best players that were out there in the whole world. So anyways.
All right. Anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here?
No, I think we're pretty good.
All right. Well, don't forget to check out kencampbell.substack.com. Give it a subscribe. Check out Hockey Unfiltered, both on YouTube and, of course, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Leave us a rating. And, of course, check out Hockey at Hockey No Filter on Twitter. Thanks so much for sticking around.